Okay, y'all. So let's talk Sig versus Sig 226s specifically versus Beretta 92s. So loved both of these guns for many years. Growing up, even as a kid, these were the two hot guns in the late 80s, early 90s action movies. Until Tupperware guns took over, these were kind of the hot ticket. So these are what I learned to shoot on for the most part. Had probably the most of these out of anything besides from 1911s, and got a lot of love for them. And they're kind of hipster guns now because nobody really shoots double action anymore. And I get a lot of looks at when I go to competitions or whatever, even buying these things at the gun store. People are like, why would you do that? Because fall 3 of these guns were new. You could probably buy 5 Glocks for the cost of 3 of these guns. Why you would need 5 Glocks, I don't know. Why you need 5 of any one type of gun, I don't know. But these are all clear. I'm just going to talk about some of the differences between, and yes, it's not really a fair comparison because I have a customized, somewhat customized Beretta model that's a higher end Beretta model, and both of these are just base 226s. So I'll try to be as subjective about that as I can. I'll try to refer back to like the Beretta 92FS or the I call it the 90, and I do it just to talk about a 92G as well. So off of the gate, let's talk about they both use essentially the same magazine, so capacity is not really a difference. If you're looking at Sig mag versus Beretta mag, try to cover that. They're the same tube. They use different followers, and the magazine release slots are different. There's actually, you can look it up, there's a way to modify each one of them to work in both guns. I can't remember which one's which. Whether you use the Sig follower or the Beretta follower, it'll work in both. But you cut the slots in either one and they both work. So capacity is a non-issue because they're the same. For example, I use 18 round Met cars for the Berettas. I do have them for the Sigs, but this one's just a regular Sig 15 rounder. So that covers that. Move the German one out the way for a minute. So when it comes to height, yes, when it comes to carry, because that's primarily what I'm talking about, carry. The Beretta is a little bit easier to carry, believe it or not, because the grip is just a smidge shorter. Let's see if you can see that. The grip on the 226 just sits a little bit taller, and the height over bore is a little higher too. So when you're talking about Appendix, where I carry, it just sticks out a little bit more this way, and it moves a little bit further this way. And when it comes to Appendix carry versus the Beretta, it kind of just falls right where I need it to fall. And Appendix carry, that's important. Millimeters count as far as comfort and actual concealability. Most people would think because the Beretta has a longer overall length, and if it was a 92FS, it would be a little bit longer because the barrel sticks out another quarter inch or whatever. But for carry, it doesn't really matter. This one would come out of the holster just a hair quicker, but I never found that to be a problem. And in fact, when I was carrying the shorter guns like a Glock 19, I would actually use 17 or 34 length holsters, because it helped when if you look at the holster length. So this is my actual Appendix 226 holster. I went with a different model this time. When I got this one, it's all right. I don't really like how wide it is compared to, say, this Beretta holster, and that's the way most of my holsters are. I went with the wing claw to try it out. Didn't really care for it. I'd rather have the wedge built into the holster. Just for my body style, that's what is more comfortable and what works best. But looking at it, where the trigger guards meet, the Beretta holster is a little bit longer, and what that does is it's a fulcrum, especially with these foam wedges. It's a fulcrum point that pushes the gun further. The longer the holster, it pushes the butt of the gun further into your body. So it actually works better for concealment. And it honestly, for my body style, the Beretta length is ideal, because where the front of the muzzle of the gun is, my body bends and it digs in, whereas the Beretta, it just kind of lays and presses against the wedge. So another point to the Beretta. As far as carry, trigger wise, comparing let's say this gun, this German, to a 92 FS, this is going to have in my opinion, a better double action. Yes, dry fire on these is actually not a good thing. You don't really want to do it too often. But this is a stock 80s gun. If I had a stock 80s Beretta, the double action would be about 2 to 4 pounds heavier. However, the single action on these, there's so much more pre-travel on a Sig than a Beretta, and that's not a big deal. You can stage the trigger, but even on the you get the reset there. The reset on the Berettas is just shorter. Not that that's a big deal, but I find the break on even stock 92s better in single action. And while they're heavier, I think, I don't know, they're both usable, but in both of them you can change things out. A lighter hammer spring that's polished on both ends will work wonders on both of them for double action. They both have options to shorten the reset to where they're both about the same. The Sig does have options as far as replacing the trigger for like I said, this one has a adjustment for over travel and pre-travel, so that helps. If you take a look, because the over travel works, it doesn't feel like the resets as far with this gun. Okay, portability. Let's talk about that. So both of these guns are some of the most pointable guns there are, next to, say, a 1911. For me, they work great because I'll say it again, I have long fingers, so I like bigger guns. The single stack 9s, most of them, that were around, really popular in the recent years, I just can't shoot those things worth of crap. They don't work for me. Would I make it work if I had to? Yes, but it's not natural for me. For me, if I had to put any one of these guns, I would not have a problem. It's a wash, really. Maybe I'd give the edge to the Sig as far as pointability, just because and I want to try a Centurion Beretta because of this, but because the Sig is a little bit shorter, it feels a little bit lighter and more maneuverable. to do target transitions and whatnot. Beretta is has a little bit more weight out front, so it is a little bit of a, it's kind of a wash. It's so minute of a difference. It is noticeable to your feel, but to quantify it, I don't know that you could. Maybe with a shot timer you could, but I don't know. Either one of these guns I could draw from the holster and have my round popping off as soon as I reach extension, because I'll be, doing the double action where, clear. I'll be drawing to where as soon as I'm on target, I'm breaking the shot, because it's not this that makes you fast. It's this, as Ernest Langdon would say. And if you want to learn double action, look him up, because he is the double action guy. Hence why I bought one of these, because I put stock in what he says, and honestly, he's right. I do not feel that a double action trigger is a hindrance. Yes, this one is like 6 pounds, which is about what a stock Glock is. It has more travel, but that is a plus because it keeps you out of trouble. And it allows you to get really aggressive on the trigger when you're presenting. And you can back off if need be. Decock. Okay, let's talk about safeties and decockers. The Sig, it's in a natural place. It's kind of flip-flop from the slide release. They don't look the same, but they're kind of, if you think about where your thumb has to go, your thumb has to reach. And yes, with a Beretta I can reach. With my reloads, I slap in and it's fast. Okay, same thing with the Sig. If I slap a magazine in, it's fast. Problem I have with the Sigs is most of the time I don't reach slide lock because I ride the thumb safety or the slide release. But we're talking about decockers. So decocker on a Sig right here. Okay, it's natural enough. I mean, if you can reach the mag release, you can reach the decocker. Beretta. A lot of people have trouble with this, so I'm gonna try and demonstrate. I'm lucky because I have long thumbs. I don't need to do anything else. It's that easy for me. Same thing if this was an FS with a safety, when I do my claw grip, my thumb comes down and pushes down and forward like a 1911 safety, and that would take it off safe. I don't find that a problem. Let's say you were wanting to decock and your thumbs aren't that long and you can't really reach it effectively without changing your grip. Do this. Not that big of a deal. Bring your thumb back. Decocking, I've had people that are Glock nut swingers tell me safeties and decockers and you can't do all that. Well, that's too fine. I've had people talk about this, but like when I go to I've done competitions and stuff, and I'll decock no matter what when I'm moving, because I don't fear the double action. A lot of people think, oh, the double action's a death sentence and you're gonna miss your first shot no matter what. No, if you know how to work a double action trigger, it doesn't affect anything. It actually gives you pretty good feedback. The gun gives you feedback. And one nice thing about double action guns is if you can master your double action, it makes you a better shooter for everything else. Single action on these guns is a breeze. I mean, it's just there. The single action on any of these guns is fine. I love double action guns. They're what I learned on, and I'm biased because I'm getting older. Much like the old FUDs with, 2 World Wars with the 1911s. I do love 1911s. However, I'm not biased. So anyway, comparing the two designs. The Sig is thinner overall because of the, you know, the way the locking block on the Beretta is. It just makes the gun a wider design in the slide. Is that a big deal? I don't think so. But that goes, I would give that point to, if I was coining this, you know, tallying this up, I would give that to the Sig. As far as overall wear, you know, issues, I've carried this Beretta longer than I ever carried this one, and it's already got, you know, it's got some wear on the front of the slide and back of the frame, in the beaver tail area. It's had some, it shows wear. To me, the finish does not wear as well in the Sigs. In fact, the Navy even noted how, well, they had the Navy ones had the internals all phosphated, you know, parkerized, but the slides and whatnot would rust on theirs because the finish just doesn't hold up on these guns. Lovely guns, but they're, you know, the function, but you got to maintain them. Beretta, you got to maintain too, obviously. I mean, it is open, does allow debris in, but, you know, a lot of the hoopla that came from the GWAT about, you know, Beretta's jamming in the desert came from these craptastic phosphated $5 surplus magazines that the government bought, you know, instead of getting Beretta mags or, you know, Met cars or whatever. They bought these things, and it showed. So is that being said, it goes, you know, magazines are the same essentially between these two guns. So if you had the same crap magazine, these guns would choke just as much. Probably more so because this is a Browning tilt lock design, and so the way the action is, there's more of a straight feed in a Beretta. When you put a magazine in, I'm not going to rack it, but you can kind of see where the bullet ends up. I'll just leave that in for a second. That's actually the Sig. See, that was a Sig mag that I just slotted in there. It didn't lock, but so you can kind of see how that works. I'll take the West German one. So versus, it is fairly straight, but because of the way the tilt action happens, there's more potential for a failure there. Which, when you bring up the tilt thing, the barrel tilting, we'll talk about recoil impulse. They both are soft shooting guns, very soft shooting guns. However, there's more muzzle flip on the Sig for two reasons. One, the height over bore. While it's marginal, it is there. And two, the Browning tilt lock design is inherent. As the barrel is rocking, or comes out of battery, it flips up and pushes down on the back of the gun. So it wants to. It's more inherently gonna flip. Whereas the Beretta, the barrel just goes back a little. It doesn't go up or anything. These guns tend to shoot a little. You know, they do have less muzzle flip. There's no denying it. Another quick thing, like most double actions have where they kind of sit at half cock naturally when they're decocked. And when you fire it, it actually pushed, so it went to where it would be decocked. it actually pushes, you know, based on momentum, to the firing pin. The Beretta, it rests against the firing pin. It actually doesn't rest against the firing pin. Inside the decocker safety, it's a two-piece firing pin where there's a firing pin, then inside here there's another plunger with a spring that basically when you fire it, it hits that and it goes right through and pushes against the firing pin. What makes that nice is when you decock, you rotate that out of the way. There's no way that you can make, if you look, the firing pin, the plunger is rotated out of the way, so it's hitting against the back of the slide when it hits, and when it comes forward, there's not enough pressure to ignite around. This decocker's fine. It doesn't allow it to go forward. However, I guess if the difference is if something were to hit this hard enough to break it and pop the hammer against the firing pin, it could possibly go off. Yes, you still have the drop safety, but this one, it's a minute thing. It's really minute. You can't do that with this because it's already against the slide. So, not really talking about anything that's specific to this model, to the Langdon. There are better versions of SIGs out there also. I'm just talking about some of the primary differences between them. Weight, yeah, it's hard to do that because this one has a light on it. The SIGs are a little bit lighter, especially the German ones, than the Beretta. Like I said, especially out front, they're lighter out front, so they just, the Beretta does track a little bit slower, but it is what it is. I kind of already have hinted towards it. If I had to pick one, I would pick the Beretta. However, if you told me I had to take this old 226 from, what I say, 1988, and that could be the only gun I had, and that I had to make it work, I would not hesitate. These guns have done a lot of work over the years. So that's just some of my thoughts on them. There's two of my favorite guns next to 1911 as well. Yeah, so anyway, until next time, I'll talk to y'all later.